Welcome to the Native Wellness Power Hour. I am happy to be here today. And I also was hoping that I could share as we all go, as we're all in this holiday moment, but I'm just going to give myself 30 seconds to get into the power hour mode. So greetings today. Oki, hello. My name is Lori Newbreast, or Aste Nikiwa. I am a member of the Piikani or Anspach Piikani or Blackfeet, and also the Blackfoot Confederacy. So, that already um, having, and I'm coming to you from our traditional homelands. So I think one of the things that I've seen today in our world that I really find encouraging, and it's really for me like a sign of, you know, this is a good day to turn things around, because the turnaround has already started. The intention to go forward in Indian country or indigenous country worldwide, that intention has always been laid out in our culture. Yes, we have hardship. Yes, there is the unexpected. We've had cultural upheaval. But in terms of our existence, the last 500, 550, 600 years, the cultural upheaval is not even a nanosecond of creation. And so this hiccup that we're in, and we're recovering, healing, we're regrouping, however you want to phrase it in the English language, it's happening. And I was also really encouraged, when I heard traditional land acknowledgements by US government officials and by Canadian officials this year. Because once you have spoken those true words, and you can speak true words in the English language, that once you acknowledge the land base of which, I'm from, our place of emergence, north of where I live from, like this is our land. We are the original people, but I also today wanted to say, we're also people of great intellect, that we have within us the genetics, but we also have the spiritual connection that isn't severed depending on a year or depending on a decade or one person's lifetime. We're connected on a tether that moves, you want to talk about I know some of our people are fascinated by the string theory or quantum physics, but our connection it's universal, and it spans over generations. And that is our, if you want to say, not our longevity, that's our way of being. So today I wanted to talk about, that concept of wellness, but also really we're in the holiday season, or we're in the season where you mark the change. And we're in winter now. In my part of the world, it's snowing outside. In some parts of the world, on the other side of the globe, they're having they're having their summer, their warm time. And that is just how dynamic the earth is. That is the universe, the way that the stars move, the constellations. They all know what they're doing. We're the ones that, through our original relationships established with the universe, all the elements that make it up. For us, our human experience is a time when we renew and acknowledge those relationships. So today you can find a lot of, you can just ask Sister Google or, your other search engines about what is today, and you'll see winter solstice. You will see, it's in certain other ways of life, it's part of their holy days, and it is a holy day. So today I want to acknowledge that not only all the other cultures in the world, but for Indigenous people, this was always a marker that we had in our culture to acknowledge this, if you want to say, big holy day, universal sacred day. When now we start, since my time, 3 o'clock or 3 a.m. or whatever, I was sleeping, by the way, but now we have started where we are moving towards the sun again, towards Natusi. And this also brings into a time for many, many of our people, if not all, because I don't know everything, but from what I know in my life experiences, this is a signal where people are rediscovering that this was the time when you had teaching sessions, you had traditional story sessions about really those ways to move forward in a good way. But there are also those stories that are lessons learned. They're the wisdom stories of what do you do when things go awry, or you go off in the past. There's so many paths now. It's like an interchange in any of the big cities. How, as an Indigenous person walking, carrying the gifts that the Creator bestowed on you at birth, how do you find that path and clarity in the world we live in? And there's a lot of techniques I've worked with. I just feel this pandemic, there was a lot of really beautiful moments that it's like, kind of like if all the colors were flashing by you, and I'm not talking like a flashback of like a drug trip or anything like that, but if all the colors were flashing by you during the pandemic, there were those bright spots that made all the colors glimmer. But there were also, the hard time since earlier this year, since the spring in our community. And we're not all the way through that. But we are starting to collect through our ways of life, through our communication, through the greatest infrastructure is our culture. And culture is made up of people. We are the infrastructure that will get us through this. Our way of life, our life ways, our teachings, however much you know today, if you are just starting, maybe you just reconnected, maybe you found out that in your path, you found out your family yesterday, this morning. Wherever you are at is the right moment. So on this day, when we find that we are all in the right moment, we are all okay, that there is a path forward, and it's through being your real self, through owning your name, through owning the people, being claimed, belonging. And if you haven't realized all the dreams that you have had, in this moment, you are realizing a marker, because we are shifting. Everything is shifting now to a renewal. It doesn't mean we forget the past. It doesn't mean some of the things that were challenges for us that we're not going to carry forward into the next coming months or the years, or, even in my lifetime, the next decades. But it means that we are today acknowledging that we are connected. We have an internal connection to this sacred day, this big holy day in the universe. And, there's going to be a constellation that will, of these planets aligning. And so naturally, you see in the news that they're calling it the Star of Bethlehem, right? Because that is sometimes the loudest voice right now in terms of the resources and technology. But 800 years ago, it was my ancestors in my homeland here looking at that same constellation. And previously, when it occurred, it was my ancestors here in our homeland looking at that constellation. So to understand that we can all see the same thing. It's not one person being right, but if you turn, in our way of thinking, if you turn the hierarchy into a circle, all of humanity is sharing in, again, a collective experience from the stars, from the teachers, from the oldest parts of the universe that guided our ancestors. Many cultures, we are just, all our teachings they're out there. We just have to pull them in. We have to ask, we have to be ready, we have to seek, we have to voice, and we have to work not to fix ourselves, but to celebrate and really let those gifts that every life, every person was gifted with at their birth, to let those emerge. And when you turn the hierarchy into a circle, collectively, when we join, it's that we join as who we really are, who we are authentically, who we are as a person, what language we use. We speak the real words, we speak the truth. But it also means that for this living generation, which I'm a part of, in my experience, I have learned that doesn't mean, all of Indian country is not going to turn into the free pass at Disney World or something. That there are many challenges, but we're going to find ways through those to rebalance those hierarchies, or if people in some of the language that has, like liberation language, I would say, has emerged in the last 40 years in Indian country. We're going to find a way to rebalance, and lateral oppression will become an echo that sometimes in the future people hear. That the inequities or the static, the fractured circles in our communities, those will be mended. And we're the ones to start it, to do it, to teach it, and to make sure that the future generations, but also the ancestors, they have our backs, and we are the ancestors that will have those future generations' backs. So there's a concept of, like planting seeds, except for my people, we were like wild gardeners. So we were like, so that seed analogy. But I want to talk about one of the really wisdom keepers, Ronan White, this week shared this story about the Saskatoon, or the Juneberry, or the berry.
And it was written by a native, and I was like, oh, I'm starting to think like an Indian. but in there, I thought about that today, how when I was taught, when you go and you make that compact with that berry bush that needs us to pick those berries, it needs the birds, it needs the sunlight, it needs the water, it needs the soil, it needs the wind, and it gives its berry in faith. That is its gift. Because it can exist if it loses in a late frost or a hard wind all the blossoms. It can live another year. And its gift is in those years, like the pandemic, you know, in the springtime, a lot of our blossoms, what we assumed were going to have fruition, you know, trips, family gatherings, conferences, good per diem, casino buffet, we could go on and on, you know. Those things, they may occur again. People may reconfigure, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe some tribe is saying, you know, we're going to go indigenous food at the buffet. You know, I'd be there. Um, and I want to make a joke about vegans, but you know, it's okay. You know, maybe there's going to be a vegan buffet. I don't know. Who knows? That'd be wild. But whatever happens in the future, the blossoms will come again and the berries will come again. So when I go out there, the way I was taught was that first berry you pick, you offer up what some people call prayers, but you offer up that gratitude to the Creator, to all of creation that enables that one berry to come, and you hold it and you give it back to the earth. You give it back so that there will be other berries in the future for other people. And that in a way is like, that is the cycle of renewal. So in this time, oh, and my little dog's snoring, so you might hear her off camera. She's right here. In this time when we are looking for, you know, there are glimmers of hope. We're still in this upheaval in the human relationships that exist in the world. And we've all been touched. Every community on earth has been touched by the pandemic. And when you start thinking of that ability of people to formulate a response, to look at the outcome, that energy has been moved to go forward. And that is really today, this day that we're all sharing. That's what it is. It's a day where that intention, that spirit, all your gifts, they start to move into the future. And I was thinking about that term, letting go. And, you know, some things you didn't even let go, you know. Uh, you know, maybe your air miles or, you know, something, I don't know. But, you know, maybe your coupon expired and you can't use it. You know, I don't know. Your points expired somewhere. But letting go is an act of loss also. And so if you don't have the complete circle, if you just have that letting go, and it's about leaving, letting things, the loss, this is the day when you're reminded that the possibilities of replacement of whatever that is you lost, they come together. They come together in that act that something will be created after this. So we've all, in every community, we've had losses. Our family members are, are close, extremely like aunts and uncles, mothers, daughters, babies, our elders, our cultural leaders, everybody, our leadership. But we're arriving at today changed people. We can't stay in this day because this is a day where we tilt forward, where all the energy, the magnet force, the sun, the moon, the stars, the rain, the snow, you go forward. That's what today is. So I thought I would talk about that because, I won't say it's by chance I'm here on the Power Hour. So it seems right. And then I also wanted to have, really some concrete suggestions. So that's kind of like, coming in, you're in the galaxy, on your cultural starship, you know, or, I don't know, maybe it's your magic buffalo robe, floating through the universe and you're riding it and, you have to come down to what's in front of you, the practical. And so most of you that have seen me on the Power Hours, or if this is your first Power Hour, welcome. If this is your, 100th Power Hour, we're getting up there. We're long past the point of where we could have birthed the baby, right? We're moving on now. And having this special day where we're propelled forward. It also, if this has been a hard time for you on some days, or maybe today, this is when those sayings of this too shall pass, this is a moment and all moments change. That's what today is. And does it happen in an instant? For some people it does. Does it happen with weeks and months? For some people it does. But the intention and the pace that's individual or collective for a tribe, for a nation, for humanity, the rhythm is individual. But we can be assured of a constant rhythm that we share. We share through the power of gravity. That the earth itself has a constant rhythm. It has a rhythm that exists all over the world. And there are points in that rhythm that are points of change and of realignment. And to know the land, to walk on the earth, even if it's covered by cement or asphalt or gravel, or you're privileged to walk on soil, on earth, on grass, to wade in water, to walk on sand, and have that direct contact with the earth, its rhythm is constant and universal. It changes, but it is at its own pace. So regardless of what we're doing, as the human family moving around on the earth today, we can be held and helped by that rhythm, the beta of the earth. And so I wanted to share, I know through my own healing journey, I have a lot of techniques that I would adapt to myself. I read about it, I would be told by maybe an older member in some of the wellness circles that I've really felt gifted to be in. And I would adapt those techniques. So one of the techniques I have that everybody can do is I make sure that my feet are flat on the ground if I start feeling like, the pressure of the holidays, or, ordering online is kind of a fantasy. It's an act of faith, right? But we've all had to adopt some form of it. And the pressure, especially when we live in consumer societies, to exhibit material gifts or exchange. Indigenous people have that back down. Generosity is a cornerstone of all our cultures. And one time, I was told about how if you have an argument, or maybe you're going to bring up something that is very serious for you to somebody, to another human being, and you want to do it not to make sure that you have a space to talk about an issue, or maybe to set a boundary, or to ask for help, that one of the ways you do that is you gift somebody that you want to talk to, and then you have a conversation, or you reestablish contact. And so they said, if you have an argument with a person and you want to solve it, one of the teachers that I've had in my life, they said, give them a gift, then ask to talk to them. So you may not be ready to do that today, but that's something that I wanted to share with you that has worked for me. But also, in many times in my life, in my wellness journey, I have coached myself, and I have told myself, I've told others have told me, take the higher road. Don't throw another log on the drama or the conflict, or somebody's feeling down. Don't make it worse. And I worked with in 2005, 2004, I worked with a group of American Indians and Alaskan Natives, and we were developing our creed of how we were going to behave in our communities. And there was a line that it was so beautiful, that process, to see people's generosity to contribute their vision of what it was going to be like for us going forward. And this phrase, to cause no further harm, that's also, from my experience, that's a cultural way, that's an indigenous way of thinking. That instead of, it will be difficult to shift over, because we're coming out of a process where power and control in our families, in our communities, and in our world has been impacted by colonization, by occupation, and where the lateral oppression has come into those dynamics. So that's what I tell myself in hard moments. When I feel the tentacles of lateral oppression or exploitation coming in and merging in, whatever I'm engaging in, I will cause no further harm, which also means to myself. And that is the basis of reestablishing boundaries. You won't let yourself be harmed for another's satisfaction or benefit. So to walk forward today, to answer the universe's impulse that the energy is moving now in another direction, to more hours of daylight. It's also that to think about how you are going to move forward. What is your intention in the next year, the next 5 minutes. And it's about that, about owning that each of us, if you want to say, we have self-sovereignty. We have collective agreements and collective sovereignty, but we have a sovereignty. So if you are in support of reestablishing and repairing the relationships in the universe and on earth, if you are concerned about clean water, then let it begin with you. That what you put into yourself helps you move forward in a good way. And I also, today I was, many things are going on, on our reservation, and staying abreast of the potential help that we'll get in our communities to continue our recovery from the pandemic and to survive and make sure as many as possible of our relatives see those days of celebration to come. I also wanted to be really practical. And so I was like, wait, let me straighten my little collar here, my holiday collar. Oh, my Kaniskina, my little magical mouse, fell over in the background. Let me straighten my hat before I start this next part. Okay, now I'm going to get down to the practical. So, we've all put things aside, the big gatherings, over the summertime, the lesson, the celebrations, the dancing, the really active, community, like just the glue that was holding our world together and giving us those circles of happiness and just joy and connection. So whether you call them a dance, a powwow, a gathering, in some ways coming together to celebrate with people. And I'm thinking particularly about dancing. I want to encourage you during this time moving forward. If your moccasin is held together with duct tape, now is your opportunity to repair it. If you haven't danced for 25 years and what you missed was going and seeing other people dance, now is your opportunity to get your kit together. In whatever way you want to participate. If you want to dance, now is an opportunity to begin collecting those items. But this morning when I was talking, I called my mom after, I knew I was going to be here on the Power Hour. And we were talking about in our community that the old roundhouse gatherings, that brought our people through a really difficult time. But they were round log houses that had been built, and that's where there would be celebrations. There'd be a wood stove in there, everybody would bring food, and there would be one drum to carry the whole evening. And the singers might change, but there was one drum, and people would dance. So the last one that I was at with my aunt and uncle, who have now are in the spirit world, we were shoulder to shoulder packed in there. And when the new tradition of of tree decorating and the concept of like a tree is, it would take up a lot of space on the round hall. So they would decorate it and host it above everybody. So I was privileged to, and that's a really dear, loving memory that I carry with me. And I was talking about it with my mom because when she grew up at a time when They seen the first car in our community on the south side. All our roads were not paved when she grew up. And people used to ride horseback, go on wagons to the winter celebrations. And my mom's 82, so she's seen the active gifting of what that round hall gathering meant in the winter. And I was privileged to witness it and to be a part of it in my lifetime. But that round hall has since, like all man-made stuff, that round hall is gone. The structure. But I've also seen resurgence in my community and in the communities of the Blackfoot Confederacy and other places when I was in other parts of the world during this time. I've seen that same thing, that in the winter, in the time when the people gather in the cold, or in the summer if you're in the southern part of the world, or if, they even have winter, they have snow in Hawaii, but like even in Florida, they have Christmas, right? And it's warm for now. But however people gathered, they gathered. So that will occur again. And what I wanted to encourage everyone, because I want you to look good when we're all, together again. If you have that feeling to dance, start getting ready. Because that's the other time of this year. It's a practical. Our people were people of necessity. All the things we did previously in the warm times, in the gathering times, prepared us for this time and to make it to the green grass. And we prepared. We made things. We collected things. We taught lessons of wisdom, traditional stories, to really understand our connection to the universe, to all of creation, and to each other. For many people, the Milky Way or the Wolf Road, that is a primary teaching of how to get along in a group, how to care for the children that you did not birth, how to care for the aged, how to care for yourself. If you're in that provider role, if you're in that primary caretaker role, we have those modern expressions of those traditional teachings in our communities. And now is the time that on this day, we get prepared to hear those, to discover those, to receive those instructions. And for people that carry those instructions and those stories, or part of our experience is our ancestors, when they see recording devices, textual accumulation of our stories, they prepared for us. They were telling those and connecting for us. So in whatever way you can, begin to seek out those stories, to put out your tobacco, to ask for the teacher to appear, to put out your tobacco if you want to dance, to put out your tobacco if you want to sing, for that intention, and find a way, ask for help. And ask also for those things that you really want, for that beauty that you want to experience, for your dreams to come true. And sometimes even down to every part of our being, My mom and sister were making jokes the other day about everything about has come through an experience. Our ancestors, had to start wearing underwear. So my mom and sister were making jokes about how underwear or chonies or whatever you want to call them, how underwear are really short clothes, and that's what some people started to call them, because for many cultures, and we didn't wear buckskin underwear. I mean, we didn't. So, but it was a piece of clothing. So what they called some of the underwear was short clothes. And when you think about that, that's a non-judgmental description. So even down to our short clothes, we've been affected in this time of change, and we've adapted. We've adapted. We have a story in our family about one of my great aunts that lived to be well over 100 years old, that, it was to always put your best face forward when you were going to go every day, but when you were going to go among the people. And just about how her short clothes failed her, but without missing a step and a beat. And, in the 1920s, I believe, she just scooped up her short clothes and carried on in her looking good in her day. So even we've had a lot of changes. So I guess for the humorous side, now is a good day to evaluate your short clothes and what needs to be turned into another purpose, repurposed. What do they call it? Cycled up. Maybe once they're clean, maybe you want to cycle up those short clothes to another purpose. A mop, a rag, a disposable something, I'm just saying. But anyway, so even on this day, things like that, you will get new short clothes in the future, I guess, is my teaching. And I'm working on I'm working on one of my projects I'm working on. I just want to be transparent, because that's also a part of wellness. I had these socks, and they're a very famous name brand, and they didn't fit my Indian foot good. So I only wore them once. So I upcycled them to a part of one of my projects. So I even sacrificed a brand name sock in reverence of today. And so I would just like to encourage you, today's the day that, like, maybe you're in a place like I am, in a rural place where, you dedicated to patching those holes, or to making sure that your clothes make it to the spring. And so today, it's a practical thing to take stock of the food stores you may have, the things that you do need, to be practical. So that was my funny. Now you'll never look at your chonies or underpants or bras or any other gear that you wear underneath. That's what people call them, short clothes. And if you think about it, that's what they are. So the other thing today that I had written or jotted down in my notes to talk about was, what do you do during this time? There's a lot of people that, a lot of new terms have come to Indian country using the English language. Decolonize, indigenize, and how do you do that in a holiday time? And I like to be anchored by basics. That it didn't matter what the calendar or the new calendar that came to my people meant, because our calendar also had teaching ways. And during that time, there was generosity. And that's what survived the great upheaval that we're currently still living in. When change came to all of our cultures, generosity, the act of being generous. And we're also, if you're at like us, 2 days ago or last Friday, our tribal council extended our stay at home until after the first of the year. So if you're under those conditions where we're preparing, and maybe in the past, you know, everybody went to somebody's house, or I have those free roaming, you know, cousins and relatives, and there's free roaming people in our community, that we would start having gatherings, and it didn't matter if they worked there or they belonged to that group, somehow they would show up, you know, at every craft fair, at every feed, at every special event that we could have in person. And their presence was important, because if we look just at one act of generosity, which is gift giving, a material thing, it's only a gift when it is received. And those people that attended everything, or now we had just, if we want to see our logistical prowess, our strength, I've witnessed it many times during this pandemic among my own people, among other communities. And I've heard stories of this. In other communities, people find a way to support each other. Given all the restrictions, all the conditions during the pandemic. So you have these huge food drives in Indian country. And there had been a lot of energy put into in the past years to toy giving, to gift giving to the children. And they found a way to incorporate that safely into the food giving. So there were these huge collective acts of generosity where all that energy came from many able-bodied individuals in every community who delivered, who didn't know, who braved the res dogs, who, because a lot of, in rural communities, we don't have addresses. They figured out by asking other people. They relied on our infrastructure of our people and our culture to carry forward that spirit of generosity, of providing. And so generosity can have a lot of faces. It can be that gift giving that is emphasized, because we live in, but it's also funny because I also, just like I attended that round hall, now I kind of seen the full circle of gift giving. So when I was little and, economically, things my parents or my mom sometimes was, we were making ends meet. We had the necessities fulfilled. And in Christmas, we would always get short clothes as gifts. We were practical. And now this season, one of my close relatives informed me that they belong to this toilet paper buying site, and they informed me, your gift is a big supply of toilet paper. And I was like, ooh. It wasn't Chanel, it wasn't Louis Vuitton,
it wasn't, eighth generation blanket, but any of those I would take. It was toilet paper. And I said, oh, I'm kind of, I acknowledged to myself, I was so happy. And then I acknowledged to myself, I'm having a full circle life moment. My hoop is being completed. Because when I got short clothes as a child for a gift, I was also happy. And now here I am in a pandemic, and somebody's going to give me, they're going to gift me, but it's also something that I need, or right now, right, I need. And so a gift is always golden, regardless of what's in the package, because it's that spirit of generosity living on. And it's also how we role model for the little people, the children, the sharing that you give to people. And we have a lot of traditions about, giveaways. Would have, I can remember at winter dances, my grandfather, who somebody would be dancing really good, or they were new to the dance arena, or they hadn't danced in a while, or they brought back an old dance. And my grandfather would go up to the MC and he would take out some money, and they would call that person up to accept that gift. And that it was money, it's a thing of necessity, but it was given to honor somebody, that act of generosity. So I'd like to encourage you, if there's somebody that maybe you haven't seen during the whole pandemic, or maybe it's somebody you see every day, maybe it's somebody you're living with, your pandemic family, your circle right now, to express gratitude and to acknowledge them, to acknowledge something that you love about them, that you find interesting about them. And excuse me, I gotta take wait. This is from an executive boardroom of a tribal nation I don't belong to. And somehow it ended up in my house. That's all I'm gonna say. I gotta take a little sip of water. Because really during this time, it's also to do our part. And then we have people that they're good on gift giving, but they're not used to receiving. And if you know that person, if you know somebody that could receive the gift, they're ready to complete that circle of gift giving. Or if it's you, receive that gift and accept that gift, because you are participating in one of the cornerstones of our culture, is that spirit of generosity. And a couple of years ago, me and my mom, we made up these we were part of this family holiday picture taking. And I put on my card that I sent out, that I still have some of them, every day is a holiday. And last winter at this time, I had just come back from Alaska, and two individuals that I met up there that they didn't hesitate one bit to welcome me into their home, to cook me fantastic meals. They were just people who really cared about their community. They were hard workers. What I had brought with me were things that had great sentimental value to me. They had been
And I brought them because that's like what I wear, right? Part of my clothing and my jewelry, but I have been gifted those from people who I dearly love, and in circumstances that they were circumstances of celebration. So they meant a great deal to me. And I wanted to pay forward that generosity that I had experienced. I wanted to pay forward, but I wanted to acknowledge those people, because that same feeling way up there in Alaska, that same feeling of being at home, I experienced with those two people. So they're like my family up there. So I know it's safe up there because I gifted it to a family member, somebody who I felt at home with, who made their home my home. And I think during this time, that's it's one of the bittersweet things that we're all experiencing, that we can't go and be sometimes with those people that we dearly love, that we care about, our family of choice, our friends that turned into sisters or brothers, our grandmothers, our uncles and aunties, because we must all walk into the future. And right now, that means that we take the best care we can. So on this day, that the energy is to move forward in a good way. The energy is to arrive in the springtime, or if you're in the warm part of the world, to arrive to that time of harvest in fall time, to the cold weather. Wherever you are at on this earth, or wherever your family members are, that is part of the experience now, where we are giving in generosity our best effort to gather in the future, to hold those close. You know, like if you were a hugger, this has been a hard time for you, you know, but you know, get yourself a mouse. Wait, I gotta just show Kaniskina. My mom gave me to this long time ago, right? Kaniskina, mouse. Get yourself a toy. Hug a tree if you won't stick to it with the frozen air. You know, hug your animals. Hug yourself. Because really, our act of the living generation to the future generations, but to the people that we love and hold dear right now, our act of generosity is making that commitment to move forward, to live through this experience the best way we can, so that we can gather again. And this is the day that you can make those intentions, that you are going to be there. You're going to stand in the circle again, closely with people. Shake hands. Give, I don't know if we'll be in the near future where you could share your food, but you know, you could put aside a portion in a safe way and share it that way. And I was also talking with my sister this morning about, you know, working on our dance outfits, you know, spiffing them up and stuff. And she was saying for one of our celebrations, I don't care if we have to wear a mask. I said, I don't care. I'm going to dance in a mask. If that's where we're at and we can still gather, that we have to continue these precautions, which is more than likely, you know, in the green grass time or in the summer times or in the next winter. I want everybody to work on a flashy, that's my dream. I'm just going to put it out there. You know, I dream that people commit to really, you know, beating to having the best mass, put their best mass forward when we all can gather again in the short near future, and to commit to arriving together. So I would like to thank you for coming here today, and I love all of you. I'm wishing you well. I'm wishing you a happy winter, and please join the Native Wellness Power Hour. You can share this again, on YouTube, or we're going to continue through this week. So have a good day. May all the blessings come to your home and to the home inside of you that you carry. And thank you so much for being here with me today and allowing me to connect with you. I love you. Bye-bye for now. Now you're going to see me do my transition.